Good evening. This is another episode of At the Table with George. I'm here with Ramon Catalan and Hany Rizkalla, and we're going to talk tonight about just the three of us doing our artistic exercises within the realm of, what would you call it, music composition. I think all of us work in different capacities as composers and other artistic endeavors. So I think we'll have a nice fun time tonight, get a little bit of background on the rest of us, and see how it goes. Yeah, like Ramon said. By the way, we do want to thank Ramon because he was the one who put this together tonight. It was his motivation who really wanted to do that. So maybe we'll let you start, actually, Ramon.
Thank you.
Give us a little bit of your own background, and your background with music, your background with New York. Being an artist in New York and all that fun stuff, yeah?
All right, so I'm going to be the first one.
Sure.
Okay, I'm originally from Chile. I studied music in Chile. Then I studied music in Argentina. And in the year 2000, I moved to the States. I moved to Miami first. I lived there for 8 years. I went to school there, to grad school. And then I decided that it was about time to make a big decision. Where do I want to go now? And I picked New York. So I've been living here since 2008.
Well, how about you, Hany? What is your background? What brought you to music? What brought you to New York?
So I'm an Egyptian architect and musician. I grew up in Egypt. I studied in Egypt. I moved to Canada very late in life. I was 29 years old. In Egypt, I was more of a musician than an architect, even though my main education is architecture. But very different than New York and Canada. Like music in Egypt was not a struggle at all. It was the easiest and smoothest career ever, and even most profitable. So when I moved to Canada, I switched to architecture in the professional side, but music is always there. And then 8 years in Canada. After that, I moved to New York, and I'm still doing the same, architecture and music.
All right. I guess I'll say a little bit about myself then now. I grew up in Los Angeles. Then when I was a child taking saxophone lessons at the back of a music store, I saw guitars live. I feel like I joined serious music study with the guitar when I was 17. And I had to, after my first job, I used all the money of that first job to buy an electric guitar and the amplifier. And ever since then, I've really studied music, or focused a bit more. By the way, I moved to New York in 2001, and for graduate school in philosophy. I studied philosophy. That was a parallel love. Maybe I had two lovers at once. Maybe I still do. I'm not sure. And it was just the atmosphere of New York that made me say, wait a second, there is a future in music here. For me. And actually that's how we all met, right? Because of Ramon, of course, again, who brought us all together, because I said, wait a second, I want to, produce a musical, an opera, in fact. And Ramon said, wait, he came to an early reading of that concert, didn't you? Yeah. And said, I think we could do something with this. Let's do something with this. And then brought Hany on board, and amongst other people. And God, that was, what would you say, 10 years ago? More than?
Probably more than 10.
Yeah, more than 10 years ago. Well, let's talk a little bit about New York, because I feel like the fact that I'm in New York has motivated me to do so many, like you said, this philosophy, or a little bit of filmmaking, a little bit of animation, and music too, right? And I feel like there's something magical about New York. You said you came to New York, from Chile originally, but first Miami. You said you came to New York, from Egypt, but first to Toronto, and then you gravitated to New York. What is it you think about New York City that made us all come here?
I think it's a great city. It has the best and the worst. But as a city, it's a great city. Now you are forced to do the best you have inside you, the best of yourself. That, you know, in other cities, it's not like that. You do what you need to do, and that's it. Here, you have to do your best. I think for me, it's a city that challenges you every day, and I like that challenge. It's interesting, and it's also inspiring to see a lot of people working, you know, doing things, creating, inventing something new, composing. I mean, Hany, you can tell us a little bit about that, about your experience too. Right.
I see New York as a playground, meaning that it's not a serious place, but in a good way. Like basically, whatever you can never do anywhere else, you can do in New York.
Yes.
There's a feel that this is a transitional place. No one is really serious about it, so you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I can't imagine myself having an architecture practice anywhere else. Like in Toronto, you need to be like have 1,000 years of experience to be recognized.
Probably well connected too.
Yeah, here like no problem. You can do whatever you want, really. So it's a big playground, and you can. It's magical because you can do whatever you want, yet it's the extreme competition and
You can dream.
Yeah, and even very complex in terms of bureaucracy as well. So it's a huge set of conflicts, and it's bizarre.
Bizarre.
Yeah, I think the magic comes from the vibe and the amount of strangers that New York embrace. So that kind of vibe really facilitates everything. Yet it's the most competitive place. So it's enjoyable that way. Like it's if US is called land of opportunities, I really think New York is the land of opportunities.
Right. What is it about architecture and music for you that they worked together to create this life?
It's just, you can say it's the same thing, just different language. Music is closer to my heart just because it's more pure. Architecture is art that comes with a lot of materialistic package that you have to deal with. I think they all target like beautiful like artistic perfection through certain qualities, which is form, rhythm, structure. All these elements exist in architecture and music and in other arts. Of course, the outcome is very different, but I think we always think of a piece of art through these components: structure, form, rhythm, harmony.
Materials, perhaps.
Yeah.
Medium.
Yeah. Materials and orchestration, maybe that's a parallel. Rhythm on architecture, of course, is very obvious. Structure and music is also very obvious.
Right. Yeah. Ramon, why don't you talk a little bit, build on his idea of the beauty and the structure of music?
Well, for me, I've been making music since 1983. For me, you know, after I get all those elements in the school, what I try to do is express myself. Express what I cannot express in any other way. Like what I can do with music when I compose. I express a part of me that I cannot express when I play the piano music of Liszt or Chopin. And the same thing when conducting. I mean, conducting a symphony is not the same as playing a symphony on the piano. So for me, it's related to that, like a way of expression. After you get all these elements in the school or in life, then you have to be honest and express what you have inside you. And for me, that's what, you know, you were talking about all these materials. I think I'm gonna say soul now. I'm gonna add that ingredient to the
soul. I like that. Yeah, something deep in. Well, you just came off of a successful, brilliant concert at Carnegie Hall. Talk about how your soul, or what you were trying to express that night, what was it, on October 15th?
Yes, yes. But one of the pieces name is Spirits of the Forest. So that tells you something. The other one, the piece for clarinet and piano, is a Nocturne Elegy. Nocturne, may suggest a lot of things, but an elegy, when we talk about an elegy, it's talking about spirit, we're talking about souls, we're talking about dedications. For me, what inspired me to compose that music was the tribes that once lived in the south of Chile, in Tierra del Fuego specifically. So I had to put my soul, my heart, my mind, and see how to pay an homage. That's something they deserve. So there was a lot of introspection, no question about that. A lot of reading, but I've been reading for years about these topics, about the indigenous people from South America. So it was no news for me when they invited me to compose something. I just had to sit and get my ideas on a piece of paper.
Hany, because in a couple of weeks now, we've got a concert coming up with our music. How can you talk about your history and how your history comes out and your experiences and, well, yeah, all the books you've read and architecture, who knows, but everything else might come out in your compositions?
I'm definitely lacking this dimension of folkloric inspirations in my music or in architecture as well. I mean, it's maybe it comes naturally without knowing. Like, for example, in one of my compositions, an Egyptian composer of mine who I really rely on in terms of opinion and direction and everything. He said that there was so many Egyptian inspired themes inspired from some Egyptian rhythms and Egyptian melodies and so on. So I guess it comes subconsciously in my work. So.
Well, I would say that at the end is who you are. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
How else could it be but subconscious, right?
Yeah.
How does music free you, Ramon? Or how do you see the purity of music?
Well, because as I said, I can express myself, some part of me that there's no other way I can express. No other way. I mean, definitely not. So, if I have a musical idea, there's no way I can express. I mean, there's no way that unless I write it down, play, or somebody play the music. So then I can express myself when the music's out there.
It's like freedom in another way, a different kind of freedom.
Yeah.
That you can't express in other languages, right?
It also made me feel free. I don't know if that happened with Hany or not, because you learn a lot of rules in school. Someday when you want to write your own music, you have to be free. You cannot start thinking about rules. You cannot start thinking about the way other people sound. You can sound like other people, but you're not thinking about it. You're trying to free yourself and be yourself. And that's difficult, to be honest, and be yourself. So that's what I try to do. And then I think sometimes depends on what I write. Sometimes I feel more free than other times. But I always try to write who I am and feel free. Not what my teacher told me 30 years ago, or a composer friend, or somebody that's famous, or somebody that's a student. No, just me. This is me. Boom.
You were talking about rules earlier, Ramon, and I remember that I developed, and I don't know if I developed it, but I thought of this methodology to compose a piece, a very specific methodology. The method was so unsuccessful 2 years ago. I remember we did have one rehearsal for it, and I said, I wrote that. This is I don't know what I'm going to do. And it was, I'm grateful that I had the 2 years to reconsider that same piece of music because I had to revisit it. And that's one interesting thing that I learned is that, and I don't do it very frequently, I don't do it very often, which is revisit some piece of music. Because it was written 2 years ago, and now it was finally, I got some phone calls to say, hey, we're going to have the concert. Do you want to change this piece up a little? Yes, I do want to change the piece. Please let me change it. So I took that, and I was fortunate to have the opportunity to refine it. And one thing that it really reminded me about was this old anecdote about a dialogue between Arnold Schoenberg and his pupil Alban Berg. But Alban Berg was hesitant, and he says, wait a second, what is this? This sounds too mechanical. Alban Berg challenged the old master, his teacher, Schoenberg, and says, why are there only 11 notes here and not 12? You said this music is called dodecaphonic, 12-tone music. Why only 11 here? And Schoenberg's answer was, I don't know. And at that moment, Alban Berg said, okay, great. This is a methodology that will work for me. I can use this technique because of that. I don't know. It's not just this calculated following the method that I don't know. He did let that freedom. I love that freedom that you said. So I was really, I learned through this composition, this constraint that I had put upon myself that didn't work. I'm like, wait a second, I am free. Exactly what you said, Ramon. I do have the freedom. This is my piece of music. I can alter the methodology. I can change the structure. Yes, I know what the structure says it should be. But I want to do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we have to, have that sort of freedom to sometimes do the, why did you do that though? I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
I like it.
Because I like it.
Because
what
it's
else?
the way I want it to sound.
That's it.
Well, that's the dangerous part of revisiting music, because a few years later you want to sound a different way. So better to compose something new than revisiting too many pieces.
Right.
And, it's dangerous revisiting. If I had to revisit my pieces, I would change many things now.
Right.
But let them stay there. It was another Ramon that composed them. That's not who I am now.
That's the process. Yeah.
That's the process, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then, what would you say, Ramon, is the difference between the old Ramon's music and Ramon's music in 2021?
I think I'm probably more free now. That means that I don't follow like a style or a pattern or like a concept. I just compose what I want to compose, and depending on the occasion too, depending on my life, on what's going on now in 2021. After the virus, before the virus, well, I'm still with the virus. But, so I think that it's a process. As Hany said, hopefully we are moving on in life too. We are more experienced. So we are changing many things.
I wonder, Hany, how do you feel about that? How does the experience of having a family and these new experiences of life that you didn't have 10 years ago when we all met?
I think now I am more cautious about time. Time becomes more precious.
Yeah.
So you're forced to be more focused, and you can't waste any time anymore. In my case, that helps because I'm always like super distracted and unfocused. So maybe that's the positive part. It's helping me be more efficient. In terms of how is the family affecting my production? It's a bit unknown because my son was born and grown in this COVID time when it's like everything is upside down and uncertain, and music has stopped anyway, and so maybe that's a good thing that I didn't have a child in normal circumstances. Yeah.
it helps you adjust, or it is an interesting way, rather, to adjust to this new stage of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
That, oh, and by the way, why don't we get this global pandemic on top of that new lifestyle and things like that?
But definitely, both pandemic and having a newborn puts things really in perspective. Like everything that was so important, now it's really not. So both those events, the newborn and the pandemic, makes you really zoom out at this world and think what's really important.
How about you, Ramon? How has the pandemic and family life affected? I don't want to, all of that, everything that we're talking about here, whether it's music, whether it's life, whether it's your soul.
We're a family of 4. I have 2 daughters, Sofia and Emilia, and Angela, my wife. And in our case, what was difficult is that we had to be confined, the 4 of us, hours, months, more than a year, inside of a little apartment, tiny apartment here in New York. So it's challenging. As Hany said, like you have to find the time to do things, or precious time, start rethinking everything. And having everybody at home, me included, being all together all the time, it's like I knew that I had to be very precise about when I wanted to practice or compose. So I was always preparing something in my mind, and when I had half an hour, 1 hour, boom, I would try to achieve that. So it was a lot of calculation, and it's challenging because you have to make music, you have to think, and the kids are around. It's always things to do at home. So it's been very challenging. Now that they are back in school, it's much better because at least in the morning you can do more. Do more for you. Right. I was missing that too, doing things for me. With the kids the whole day at home, it's not easy. Very, very difficult. And the good thing is that we all love each other.
Being in love and loving your family is a very good thing. So what is next, Hany, for you?
So this November 20, the concert, I'm looking forward to it. So we both have pieces to be performed, and as you said, we've been waiting 2 years for this concert to happen. Let's see how it goes, because it's a bit challenging in terms of playing. But we have good musicians, so I'm optimistic.
Like you, I'm very optimistic about the musicians too, because sometimes when we do write music, listen, all musicians work hard, and sometimes in working hard, they might become overwhelmed, or I know in my case, sometimes I write music that is less friendly to a musician's fingers, let's say, or less friendly to the musician's psyche, and it probably says more about my obscure style of writing, by the way. But like you said, I remember that we did have that one rehearsal at least. That does put a little bit of faith. That does put a little bit of faith in me for the musicians that are coming up. The Tenry Cultural Center.
Oh, Tenry.
The Tenry Cultural. You're familiar with it, right?
And painting or whatever.
Yeah, it's certainly a Japanese cultural-inspired location.
It's a well-known venue. Mm-hmm. And what time is that going to be?
That should be at 7:00 on November 20th.
Is there any website where people can check?
That's a great question. I think you can see stuff on the
composerscollective.org.
Ramon, how about you? Now you've had your wonderful and successful performance at Carnegie Hall. What's next? What's coming up?
It's going to be Christmas season soon. So a couple of Christmas concerts around the city. But after Carnegie Hall, I started some conversations with some people here and some people abroad, and that includes my country, Chile. So we'll see what happens. We'll see, because we are still very early in conversations. But for 2022, I would like to premiere my mass. I composed a big mass for symphony orchestra, a choir, and soloist. And I had the honor of having Hany orchestrating a gigantic piece. It's a monumental piece, and Hany's orchestrating that. So not only his good taste is there, he has really good taste to orchestrate, but also his knowledge as an architect. So I have like the privilege. So hopefully in 2022 we will see the world premiere of that piece. I don't know where yet, but hopefully. So let's hope for the best.
Very ambitious goals. It's always good to aim for the sky.
It's just only a decade goal, you know. It's overdue too.
Hey,
It's about time to do it. Yeah.
wonderful. That's wonderful.
I have to say it was very enjoyable to collaborate with Ramon because of what you said earlier, like the total freedom to not worry about structure or responsibility of a composition, but just having fun with color. It's like a child with a color book. The extreme feeling of freedom ever I had, where it's just a matter of going with color. That's it. I guess the three of us share one important thing is that we don't compose in a way that we're trying to build a composition repertoire. We all of us consider our compositions as exercises. I don't think any of us claim a first composition yet. It's all exercises and trials and very enjoyable struggle. But
It's important though, like now we invite some people that would like to support our music, or invite institutions that would like to premiere our music, or orchestras that want to perform our music. Well, they should contact us.
Yeah, absolutely. We have our contact information there below on the videos, I'm sure. We'll put our contact information just below. And like you said, to build this beautiful collaboration with so many wonderful institutions, like you suggest, and other people, benefactors who really feel the passion for
Exactly.
building something,
Something
the
new,
soul.
something fresh.
Something new, something fresh. Collaboration, right? And I think I feel very blessed that I've been able to collaborate with both of you for so many years now in New York. And I feel like, back to your point, Hany, about the magic of New York, only in New York, right? Can an Egyptian, a Chilean, and some Los Angelino, right? Can all come together and say, wait, let's figure out how to make this fantastic coloring book. Right, I love that metaphor of the child with a coloring book, and it's been a pleasure to collaborate with both of you so much over the years, and have such a successful relationship, and not only that artistic collaborative relationship, but also the love that I have for both of you. The camaraderie, right? I've been to both of your weddings, in fact, right? And I've seen both of your families grow from single men to now a family of 4 and a family of 3. So that's makes me so happy. It fills my heart with such joy. And that is one more thing that I just love about all of this process is the collaboration. And I feel certainly very lucky to have collaborated with you gentlemen so much.
You too.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
For the next 10 years.
Thank you very much, Ramon and Hany.
Thank you, Hany. Thank you, George.
Cheers. Cheers. And thank you all very much. We hope you enjoyed. Good night.